Today, I took the big plunge. After many of you suggested that I give it a shot, I gave my sweet paint tool Sai a break and downloaded Clip Studio Paint. I'm on the 30-day trial run for now, but after what I put myself through today, the hours spent Googling where things were, reading tooltips, restarting my computer, somehow managing to break my other applications in the process of restarting my computer, and ultimately panicking and pleading for help on Twitter. Shout out to Caldori Life for taking a step away from work to help me out. Thank you so much. It would be pretty silly of me to not adopt this program as the perfect sister to use alongside Sai. So, hey guys, if you're new to my channel, I'm Liz and I'm a full-time illustrator, new-time YouTuber, and I make time lapses, tutorials, and other art-related videos in between commissions. Today's video is about me, a loyal Sai user, trying Clip Studio Paint for the first time, what I immediately like about it, what I was not personally satisfied with, and some tips on how you can better familiarize yourself with new art programs. Alright, so I want to start this off with a disclaimer. This is my very first time using this application, so my first impressions, though valid, will definitely change as time goes by and I grow more confident and comfortable using Clip Studio Paint. With that being said, let's get into it. First things first. The main reason I wanted to try out Clip Studio is due to the serious lack of texture options in Sai. I wasn't exactly sure what Clip Studio had to bring to the table regarding textured brushes, but honestly, anything is better than the nothing that I currently work with. And to my incredibly pleasant surprise, Clip Studio has an awesome variety of textures in the vanilla brushes. But I can also download and install brushes made by the community. I'd love to install and try some out in the future, but for today, I just worked with what the program came with. In the toolbar, we have a main brush tool with 4 sub-options: thick, watercolor, India ink, and realistic watercolor. I only played with a few brushes under each menu. Each of these will take a lot of playing around with to feel like something I could practically use, but I wanted to find a brush that felt similar to what I currently use in Sai. And for the most part, the thick brushes satisfy that need pretty well. I particularly enjoyed the oil paint flat brush to represent the painting technique that I like to use with my shoddy marker over in Sai. The pen tool, which upon clicking on now during this voice recording, I notice has a sub-menu tool called marker, and I'm so excited to see what those are all about. But anyway, the pen tool has so many different types of base pens to choose between, and for the most part, a lot of them felt pretty similar. I could see myself grabbing any of these to do line art with. They create a beautifully clean stroke, probably the most easily comparable tool to the ones I rely on in Sai, and I will definitely be using them. I only barely tried the pencils and the sprays, but my impressions on them are pretty positive for the most part. I'll find some time to do some sketches with just the pencils and see how they feel in future projects. Now, aside from the brushes, I like how many layer settings I have to play with. I'm only missing my favorite one from Sai, but that's not a huge deal. There's a similar setting option, or I can always bring the file over to Sai, slap on the setting I want, and bring it back over. Now I want to talk about the things that as of right now, I wasn't super excited about, but reminder on my disclaimer. I haven't really put in enough time or research to confirm if my frustrations are valid, but hey, first impressions are important. Thankfully, my problems are pretty minimal and possibly isolated to just my own ridiculous expectations, but nevertheless, I want you guys to know all the details. Like many art applications, sometimes your tablet just doesn't want to play nice with it. It took me a very, very long time to get the pressure sensitivity to finally work on the program. I Googled it, read all the tips and tricks from other users, and even the program's technicians on their FAQ. Although I followed every step, I still wasn't successful. It took restarting my computer and then fiddling with the settings on the application, like turning them back off and on again multiple times to finally get it to work. It was so annoying, but it eventually did work. The problem resides in the fact that the application is generous enough to run non-PC tablets as well as your general PC ones, and for some reason it auto-set itself on non-PC. I don't know, I'm not a programmer, and this was certainly a user error problem than an application one. However, my current complication with the application has to do with the shortcut key settings. I was attempting to modify all of the shortcut keys to match Paint Tool SI, obviously, but wasn't able to capture the left control key in the settings. I could only pick letter keys to fit the shortcut. I tried to disable the left control from its original purpose, but that still did not allow me to set it for what I wanted to use it for. Upon Googling it, no one else seems to want to modify their left control to be anything else, so it's fine. I can always edit that tool shortcut inside to fit the one I have in Clip Studio, and then just relearn it. And to wrap this up, I want to talk about settings and familiarizing yourself with new programs. Now, in Clip Studio, there are a ridiculous amount of options, settings, subsettings, and drop-down menus for every little thing. It is incredibly overwhelming for a simpleton SI user like me. But thankfully, there are tons of tooltips when hovering over most settings that I was able to figure out what most of them meant, and in addition to that, it's easy to modify the UI to your desired layout and save it. I removed more than half of the windows, including the animation ones. I absolutely plan on making a separate UI centered around all the animation tools and figuring all that out in time, but for now, I desperately wanted it to feel as similar to Paint Tool SI as possible, so I could maintain my ideal hands-eye coordination and save time while learning this new program and creating illustrations. So as you can see, I did a pretty good job. I'll probably fine-tune it more and eventually start adding more menus and settings as time goes on, but for now, it's similar enough that I feel far more excited opening this bad boy up to paint in it more often. Now, when it comes to learning a new program, I highly suggest following these steps right off the bat to rid yourself of at least some of the fear in trying new things. 1. Find your favorite tools in the mess. This really only works if you already had favorite tools from a previous application, but if you didn't, hey, playing around with everything is tons of fun. But finding a tool similar to the one that you're familiar with makes a program a lot less intimidating. I love my marker tool in Paint Tool SI and found that the oil paint flat brush in Clip Studio Paint was pretty darn close. I used it the most in painting Peach, and actually preferred how it textured her over my original favorite brush, but shh, don't tell it. 2. Close out all of the windows that you do not recognize or use. A lot of the windows in this application are great for hyper fine-tuning brushes or having far more control over your project's history or color engineering, but I personally couldn't give a dang about any of that for now. It was just way too much to look at, and I am not flying a spaceship, so I don't want to see all of these buttons that I'm not going to use, and closing them all out does not remove them from the application, it just hides them. So if I ever wanted to become a pro, I can always delve into them later. 3. Take your time to draw a full illustration of something that you really enjoy and do not feel intimidated by. I originally was thinking about making this into a video where I learn how to use Clip Studio and also illustrate a draw this in your style painting, but I wasn't really feeling that inspired by some of the ones I looked at today and seriously started to feel the pressure of making sure it looked as good as the original, so I opted to draw a Nintendo 64 polygon heavy Princess Peach instead, because, you know, there's no way I would feel intimidated by this glorious image. I love Peach, I love Western scenes, so I was very much enjoying myself today. And with that being said, thank you to those of you who recommended this application to me. I really appreciate it. I'm going to have some fun playing around with it more, and I for sure see myself purchasing it officially very soon. I also hope you enjoyed watching me paint this Peach up. Though I gotta admit, I was pretty happy with how she ultimately turned out in Clip Studio, I'm not confident enough in the program to polish her up perfectly on it quite yet, so I went and did that in SI and have her available as a print in both my Imprint and Teespring stores, and I'll link those both below, as well as a link to the full image on my Twitter, DeviantArt, and elsewhere. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, I have a long overdue how to draw hair tutorial that I'm working on, and plenty of more to come in the future. So please subscribe, ring that bell, and follow me on my social media to keep up with all the good stuff. Stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next video.